Welcome to the 8 Minute Rule podcast, where actual physical therapists share clinical pearls designed to create conversation around what's getting results in the clinic. No fluff, no Medicare stopwatch, only quality content. Welcome back to the 8 Minute Rule. I got Mark and myself here. Really, what we're going to do today is something a little bit different. We'd like to talk about the PT profession as a whole, as I know that's not necessarily a new topic, but hey, there's a lot of complaining, a lot of frustration out there. Uh, that's not really helping to move us forward necessarily. So what Mark and I wanted to do was just get a quick hitter. Where's the profession going? What can we potentially do differently? Really short. We're trimming it down just to get some thoughts here, maybe expand later. But Mark, we know there's a PT staffing shortage. There's not enough PTs out there. That's documented by plenty of evidence. We also know as a field, and this is a little bit more subjective, but PT profession feels fairly undervalued. I think that's probably safe to say among most of us. And, especially in terms of outpatient, there's plenty of clinics out there that would like to have more patients. So how do all three of those things exist? And what are some things we can do about it?
So the how do those three things exist, I think, is that they can only exist in kind of a short period of time before something changes. You have a shortage of PTs, so either PTs are not entering the profession or they're leaving the profession at a greater rate. And as that happens, the PTs that stay in are being asked to do more and more, see more and more, or patients are waiting, 2 months, 3 months, to get in to see a PT. And once you reach a certain threshold, I don't know what that threshold is, but when it starts to become so difficult to see a PT that you just can't, then at a certain point, PTs start to become paid more. And when that happens, you may have fewer people leaving the profession. Maybe it's more desirable for people to come into the profession because you're being paid a little bit more. Does that solve the problem? No, but you're going to hit a tipping point where that something has to change, and that's kind of where I see things going. Is that so many people are leaving the profession, fewer people are entering. That there's going to be a tipping point where sooner or later, like, we have to get paid more, or PT will almost cease to exist, especially in smaller companies. Like, the bigger companies will still probably be okay, but those smaller companies are just not going to be able to survive that.
All right. So a little bit of an organic changeover in terms of the profession is what I'm hearing to some degree, which again, I think that's probably a natural trend for most professions out there. I don't know if that gives everybody the most confidence, but one of the things I was thinking about, we as PTs, we're empathetic individuals, not always the best with business, and maybe in terms of finance. A lot of it probably comes down to some degree to value. Are we able to determine the value we provide? And likewise, are we able to prove that value and see that somebody's going to pay for that value? Obviously, that's a much more difficult question to answer, but I think that's a big thing that needs to be on the mind of all PTs. If you're complaining that we don't get paid enough, you're complaining that our profession is going the wrong direction, then the first question that I would make sure that all of us PTs are asking ourselves is, do we understand our value? Like, do we know truly what our value is? And I'm not saying that it's drastically higher than all we think or lower. Probably somewhere in the middle on the spectrum. And so I think everybody needs to take a look at that. But I think as a whole, I have a couple thoughts that I think could be really helpful. And I don't know, love to see if we could try to make some of these things happen. Well, one of the things I was thinking through was, number one, PT profession would do well with residency. And why do I say that? As a whole, I think one of the challenges for us, and you've seen this from a hiring standpoint, is PT staying in a field for an amount of time. We tend to see many more PTs leaving within the first year of even practicing right now. And so I believe a residency could help that out. I think it could really get them set up for being a part of what they're jumping into something and truly seeing what it looks like. You and I both agree from the development standpoint, that's huge and that's massive. So you set them up for success. Obviously, you got to figure that out with, do you incorporate it within school, out of school, lots of other things there. We don't have time to tackle on there, but I think residency could be a big piece of this. I also think, uh, really going after loan repayment could be massive here. So, one of the things that could be really helpful is even just a structure of, hey, I'm going to cut your salary in half, and can you live off a half a salary with the other half going to loans? Um, you tell me, Mark, is that something that you would find valuable if in the first 2 years you said like, hey, I'm going to live off 30, 40 grand, and then we're going to put the rest towards loans? I mean, I think you can make a massive dent in things there. What do you think? Tell me where I'm wrong.
I think that for me, that would be desirable because I am more aware of the financial aspects of like loans and things. But I think there's a lot of PTs that, and really, this is true for a lot of student loans. Those student loans are going to be there forever. They'll be there till the day I die. I'm just going to make the minimum payment on it, and that's how I'm going to live. And I know that there are people out there with that mindset. So it may not be as desirable for some of those folks, but. Um, yeah, I'm open to being wrong there too.
Yeah, and that exists, and that may be one of the things that we got to look as a barometer too for determining our own value. Like that's hard to do, staying in debt as well. So again, I know we've got a lot of issues here that we're looking at, and we want to be able to solve all of them. But I think the biggest thing is trying to get our profession. I mean, whenever you're stuck in a frustrated mentality, the shift is to look at gratitude, right? Like look and see where the opportunity is. Because I mean, again, we have a profession that's PT shortage, yet most clinics are looking for more patients. So obviously, there's opportunity out there. There's opportunity everywhere. And so how can we as a profession shift our mindset around like, hey, let's figure out a way that we can utilize this.
Yeah. And, as far as value goes, I mean, there's data out there that shows the value of seeing a physical therapist, decreasing costs for episodes of care with low back pain, decreasing costs with episodes of care for knee pain. You name a joint in the body, and seeing a PT first decreases how much you are spending in healthcare. So we have that on a larger scale. And I think that is valuable and something we should leverage. And I think we are trying to leverage more and more. But what we miss and what we lack is, the individual episode of care where, like, in the moment, how are we justifying, how are we quantifying success and demonstrating value? And, we've talked about it before. A little bit with AI, but using standards of care and having something that is consistent where you go to one PT and do some very evidence-based practice stuff, and then you go to another PT down the road and you get a totally different experience, even though you're going for the same thing. And not to say that there isn't nuance, there's biases and everything, but to have a wildly different experience from one place to the next just demonstrates that we need something to hold everybody accountable to provide high quality care.
I love it. Falls back into the residency conversation a little bit there as well too. So good stuff. Obviously, plenty more we can talk on, which may be for future episodes. Appreciate it, Mark. Talk soon.